The Imperial menagerie stretched across 3 floating platforms above the crimson clouds of Valthara Prime. Within its crystalline walls prowled creatures from 1,000 conquered worlds, each more deadly than the last. But none commanded the fear and respect that Fenrier did. The massive Vulf stood nearly 3 meters at the shoulder, its silver-black fur rippling with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with its heartbeat. Eyes like molten gold surveyed the gathered handlers with obvious contempt. This was the Emperor's prized possession. Bred from the alpha predators of the frozen moon, Scati, a creature of pure violence wrapped in elegant fur. Fenrier had killed 17 handlers in the past solar cycle. Ambassador Thexner, a towering Kralix with 4 arms and iridescent scales, gestured toward the reinforced enclosure with barely concealed frustration. Your people claimed expertise with aggressive fauna, Captain. The Emperor grows impatient. If this human cannot succeed where our finest beastmasters have failed, the alliance talks end here. Captain Myraon stood at the observation deck, her slight frame almost comical next to the 2.5-meter alien diplomat. She wore standard Earth Navy fatigues, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. To the assembled aliens she looked impossibly fragile, no natural armor, no claws, no venom sacs. Just soft skin and a curious smile. 17 handlers, Myra said, studying the Vulf through the transparent barrier. What methods did they use? Thexner's translator crackled. Dominance displays. Pain compliance, psionic subjugation, chemical restraints. All standard protocols for apex predators. He paused. The last handler attempted a neural shock collar. Fenrier tore him apart before the current could discharge. I see, Myra tilted her head. And nobody tried just docking to him? The silence that followed was profound. 3 different species of alien handlers exchanged glances that clearly communicated a universal concept. Is she serious? Captain Chun, Thexner said carefully. Fenrier has a brain. He's not sapient, he is a weapon? One does not negotiate with a weapon, Myra smiled. You've never met a dog person, have you? Before anyone could stop her, she walked toward the enclosure entrance. Captain, that is suicide. Thexner lunged forward, but Myra had already keyed the access code she'd been given. The door hissed open. Fenrir's head snapped toward her instantly. The Vulf's lips curled back, revealing fangs the length of combat knives. A growl emanated from his chest, a sound that vibrated through the deck plates and made the observation glass crack slightly. Myra stepped inside, the door sealed behind her. She didn't look at Fenrier. Instead, she walked to the side, giving him space, and sat down on the floor with her back against the wall. She crossed her legs casually and pulled out a protein bar from her pocket. Fenrier stalked closer, each paw step deliberate. The growl intensified. Muscles coiled beneath that magnificent fur, preparing to pounce. Myra unwrapped the protein bar and took a bite. She still didn't look directly at him. So, she said conversationally, I heard you've been having a rough time. 17 handlers, huh? I bet they all came in here trying to show you who's boss. She took another bite. Thing is, buddy, you already know you're the boss. You don't need some scaled bureaucrat with a shock stick reminding you. Fenrier paused. The growl didn't stop, but his ears flicked forward slightly. See, where I come from, we had wolves too. Had them for thousands of years before we figured out something important. Myra finally glanced at him, not making direct eye contact, but acknowledging his presence. We figured out that the scariest, toughest predators don't need to be broken. They need to be partnered with. She broke off a piece of the protein bar and tossed it gently to the side, not at Fenrier, but near enough that he could investigate if he chose. The Vulf stopped advancing. His nostrils flared, analyzing the offering, his eyes narrowed. Yeah, I know, probably doesn't smell great compared to whatever fresh meat they've been throwing you, but it's mine, and I'm sharing it. That means something where I come from. Myra continued eating. Minutes passed. Outside, the assembled aliens watched in stunned silence. Thexner had his hand on the emergency purge button that would flood the enclosure with knockout gas. Slowly, Fenrir's growl faded. He circled Myra at a distance, studying her from every angle. She continued ignoring him, occasionally tossing another piece of food to the side. Then she did something that made every alien observer gasp in horror. She stood up and turned her back on him. You know what, Fenrier? She said, walking toward the water dispenser in the corner. I think you're not vicious. I think you're bored. And lonely. Nobody here speaks your language. She filled a bowl with water and set it down, then returned to her spot on the floor. Fenrier approached the water bowl cautiously. He drank, never taking his eyes off her. When he finished, he sat down still 3 meters away, but no longer poised to attack. Who's a good one? Myra said softly, the Vulf's ears perked up fully. Yeah, you are. You're a good one. Her voice was warm, genuine. These idiots have been treating you like a weapon. But you're not a weapon, are you? You're a Vulf, a partner, a companion. She extended her hand slowly, palm up, not reaching toward him, but offering. Fenrier stared at the hand, at her face. At the hand again. Then, in a movement that would be analyzed by xenobiologists for decades to come, the Emperor's unkillable Vulf padded forward and pressed his massive nose into Myra's palm. Outside the enclosure, Vexner's jaw hung open. Impossible, he whispered. Myra scratched behind Fenrir's ears, and the Vulf's eyes half closed. The bioluminescent patterns on his fur shifted from aggressive reds and purples to calm blues and greens. There we go, Myra murmured. See? You just needed someone who gets it. When she stood up, Fenrir stood with her. When she walked toward the door, he followed at her heel. Perfect synchronization, no commands needed. The door opened. Myra walked out, and Fenrir walked beside her, calm as a summer breeze. The assembled aliens stared in absolute silence. Myra turned to Vexnor with a slight smile. Humans spent 10,000 years turning wolves into dogs, Ambassador. We learned a long time ago that respect works better than dominance. And that sometimes the scariest creatures in the universe just want someone to call them a good boy. She looked down at Fenrir, who looked up at her with something that might have been wolfish contentment. Who's a good one? She said again. Fenrir's tail wagged. The alliance talks proceeded without further incident.